I drive through the quiet morning streets of the city. Today, I'm heading to the airport for another business trip. We're starting a new subway project in a big city nearby. Taking a moment in my car, I think about the work ahead. It's a peaceful time, with the city still waking up around me. As I wait at a red light, I notice only a few cars passing by. I think about Madison, my wife of 3 years. I'm grateful to have her with me every day. Madison is a theater actress, and now she's back on the road touring with a company in another city. We are often separated because of her work, but our love endures any challenge. We live in a big house that becomes empty and quiet when she is gone. There won't be much activity over these 2 weeks. Her health concerns mean that we are childless. However, we have talked about the potential for adoption. Really, I'd like a baby. We've already begun our search for the ideal orphanage. It makes me happy to think of us raising a child together in the future, and makes me smile pleasantly. But suddenly a thought hits me. I forgot important documents at home. Those damn documents that I can't do without on my new project. The folder is left right at the entrance. I brake sharply and turn around, deciding to go home. There's still plenty of time before the flight, and I'm used to doing everything in advance. As I pull up to our house, I feel mixed emotions. It feels so familiar and cozy, even though I've been feeling some anxiety for the past few weeks. I pull up in front of the house, noticing the garage is closed. Inside is Madison's car, the one she left behind when she went on tour. Parking in front of the house, I get out of the car and take a deep breath of the fresh morning air. My mind scrolls through the day's plan. I still have enough time to pick up my paperwork and get to the airport on time. It's quiet outside, only the birdsong diluting the peaceful atmosphere. I walk to the house, take out my keys, and then suddenly notice a black cat that suddenly appears from around the corner and starts rubbing against my legs. It's totally unexpected, but I've always loved cats. Their soft movements and affectionate purring have always brought me joy. "Hello, beautiful," I say, smiling and lean down to pet her. The cat begins to purr, and I feel myself relaxing a little. Thoughts of Madison come back to me. Her touch, her voice, her laughter all feel so familiar and close to me. We've often talked about how our home will be even happier and filled with laughter when we have a baby. But right now, we're dealing with her health issues and constant traveling. Finally, unlocking the door with my keys, I enter the house. The cat rushes inside and disappears upstairs, which makes me smile a bit. But then I remember the papers I need. The folder is on the table by the door, essential for starting my project. As I prepare to leave, I realize I can't leave the cat indoors. I follow her upstairs, feeling increasingly uneasy with each step. The house seems so quiet, but this silence unsettles me. When I reach the second floor, my steps slow down. Suddenly, I hear a sound that makes me wary. It's not a meow as I expected, but something else. The sound is reminiscent of moaning. I tense up, trying to figure out where it's coming from. It seems to be coming from our bedroom. The cat is attempting to enter the bedroom by standing in front of the door and scratching at it with its paw. I feel something tighten in my chest at that very time. My heart begins to beat more quickly, and my mind is racing with ideas. What's happening in that doorway? I approach the door carefully, finding every step challenging. The sounds become more and more distinct, and I realize it's not a cat. It's a human moaning. My hand trembles as I touch the doorknob. I slowly open the door and see something I never expected. Madison is lying in bed with some black-haired man. His muscular body covers hers, and in that moment, my entire body feels like it's paralyzed. Shock overwhelms me in a wave. My heart stops. My breath catches. The lovers notice me and start frantically getting dressed. Madison gets out of bed and wants to say something, but the man stops her. "I'll handle it, baby," he says, and I feel my whole world crumble. Everything that was dear and close becomes nothing in an instant. With a loud thud, the door slammed behind me, and I was left standing face to face with the man who had destroyed my world in a matter of minutes. He stepped toward me, literally shoving me out. His hateful stare and twisted grin made me angrier than I'd ever been. Thoughts raced through my mind. How did things get so bad? The man in front of me was pure menace. His muscles tightened as he advanced, eyes burning with hatred. When he spoke, each word cut deep. "You fool," he sneered. His voice was sharp and menacing. "You're worthless, just like Maddie said. Do you even understand you don't deserve her? She's hot. She's passionate. And look at you, you're nothing. Do you feel bad? Why don't you cry, you miserable worm?" Those words cut into me like knives. I felt my chest tighten like a huge stone had been placed on my heart. I could feel the anger building up inside, but fear and helplessness held me back. Images of our happy moments with Madison, her smile, her laughter, all of it seemed distant and unattainable. The man stepped even closer, his face very close to mine. He wore nothing above the waist. I could feel his hot breath on my face, and it made me cringe and hate him. "I'm gonna go screw your wife now," he said, turning his back to me, "and you'll disappear from here in 20 minutes. If anyone finds out about the affair, or if you ever divorce her, I'll kill you. I can make your life a living hell. Do you understand me?" Those words were the last straw. Something inside me clicked, and all the accumulated emotions burst out. In a moment, I stopped thinking about fear and danger. There was only one voice in my head. "You have to do something." I noticed that his knee was slightly bent, and without thinking, I sharply hit him in that vulnerable spot. The man howled in pain and fell to the floor, grabbing his leg. I didn't give him time to recover. Taking the first thing I could find, a massive vase from the table in the hallway, I hit him over the head. The sound of the blow was muffled and heavy. The man screamed and rolled over onto his back, trying to get up. His eyes glittered with hatred, and he thrashed about like a wild animal cornered. But I couldn't. All the rage, the pain, the betrayal, everything that had built up in me in those minutes was coming out. I hit him again and again, leaving him no chance to retaliate. My every move was filled with fierce determination. I realized that if I didn't stop him now, he might actually carry out his threats. My ears were ringing. My heart was pounding so hard it felt like it might burst. The man screamed and struggled, but each time he tried to get up, he was struck again. Blood streamed down his face, his eyes losing focus. Finally, he couldn't fight anymore and collapsed, gasping for breath on the floor. Just then, the bedroom door flew open and Madison rushed in. Her face was pale, her eyes wide with fear. "Cole, what are you doing? You've gone crazy," she screamed, horrified to see her husband attacking her lover. Her scream jolted me like an icy shower. I froze, breathing heavily, clutching the bloody vase in my hand. My head was pounding, adrenaline still raging in my veins. I looked at her, and all my anger came out in one loud growl. "Go back to your room and get dressed. The police are on their way." Madison froze, seeing the fury in my eyes. She didn't dare to object anymore. Slowly, as if in a trance, she returned to the bedroom. I, on the other hand, put down the vase and pulled out my phone. My hand shook as I dialed the number of my friend on the police force. "Hello, Mike? It's Cole. My house has been broken into. Get over here right away," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. When I finished talking, I leaned against the wall and felt my strength fade. My ears were still ringing, but I knew I'd done what I had to do. I had one blood-curdling thought in my head: things will be different now. It had been a day since my whole world had fallen apart. I sat in the kitchen, staring out the window at the soft morning sun. The house was silent, broken only by the occasional sound outside the window. The police had taken Brad away and Madison hadn't left her room all night. I lay awake replaying last night's events in my head. My heart still ached, but a plan for the future was already forming in my head. The morning began with a heavy conversation. Madison walked into the kitchen, her face pale, her eyes red from crying, She walked over to the table and sat across from me, trying not to meet my gaze. Cole, she started. But I interrupted her with a hand. There's no need, Madison. We both know there's no discussion here, I said, my voice steady but cold. She looked down, and I continued. You won't testify against me. You'll say you knew Brad and had an affair with him, but refused him sexually. He tried to assault you when he broke in here while your husband was away, and I happened to come in and stop him when I came to get the papers. That's the only way out for both of us. Tears welled up in her eyes as she looked at me. No, I cut her off. You do this, or I'll ruin your career completely. I have enough proof of your treason. You'll lose everything if you don't listen to me. Madison covered her face with her hands and cried. I stared at her, feeling everything go cold inside. Her tears didn't make me feel sorry anymore, only bitterness and disappointment. We're getting a divorce, I said when her sobs subsided. You will have no claim to our property, but I'll leave you your car. That's all. She nodded, unable to object. We both realized that this was the end. Everything that had been between us was ruined forever. I'm sorry, Cole, she whispered through her tears. I never meant for this to happen. I stood up and walked over to her, putting my hand on her shoulder. My words sounded cold and detached. It doesn't matter anymore. We both need to move on. Madison stood up and, barely holding back tears, left the house. I stared after her, feeling the pain recede from me with every step she took. Soon her silhouette disappeared behind the door, and I was alone in the empty house. The house was silent, broken only by a slight rustle. I in turn headed to the kitchen and poured cat food into the white bowl. The black cat I'd adopted stretched lazily and approached the bowl, purring softly. I named her Mindy, a small reminder that not everything in this life is as it seems at first glance. Mindy raised her green eyes to me, and I felt a calmness fill me. It was as if this little cat had brought a piece of peace and tranquility into my life. I sat down on the floor next to her and began to stroke her soft fur, feeling her purring gradually lull my anxiety away. A few weeks passed. I was slowly getting back to normal. Work took up all my attention again. I started working on the new subway project and focused on it. My colleagues noticed I was different, but didn't pry. I appreciated their understanding and encouragement. The house, once filled with memories of Madison, became a peaceful place. I rearranged and redecorated, trying to remove reminders of her. Each day, I found something new that made me happy. Mindy, my loyal companion, was always there. Her calm presence comforted me, and caring for her kept loneliness at bay. She followed me everywhere in the house. Her purring became the new constant background for my thoughts and work. Sometimes in the evenings, I would go out on the porch and look at the stars. Thoughts of the future gradually replaced the bitterness of the past. I began to think that perhaps I should try to adopt a child. The idea seemed more and more appealing. I knew I could give a child everything he or she needed: love, care, and support. Soon I began visiting orphanages, meeting children who needed a family. Mindy accompanied me on these trips, her presence calming and inspiring. I felt like I was finding my place in life. One day during one of these trips, I met a little girl named Emma. Her eyes glowed with happiness despite her challenges. She quickly bonded with Mindy the cat, and Mindy felt the same way. We spent more time together, and I realized I had found what I'd been searching for, even though it wasn't how I'd pictured it. The adoption process was tough, but I was determined. When Emma finally joined us, bringing happiness and joy to our home, I felt like I had found my purpose in life. The hurt from Madison's betrayal gradually faded. It taught me to forgive and move forward. I decided I wouldn't date again, content with Emma and Mindy as our own little family. I was confident we had a bright future ahead of us. Second story. Cheated on multiple women with famous girl. For the past 10 years, I've been involved with a girl who is famous in my country, but not for the best reasons like her online presence and reality TV appearances. despite her desire for a normal relationship. I've always turned her down because I live in a small town and wanted to keep our relationship private. We used to see each other often when we were younger, but lately it's been more like twice a year. I've been in other relationships during this time, but I've cheated on every girlfriend with her, without feeling guilty, until recently. I've come to realize my mistakes and haven't texted her for several months now. I think it's over between us, even though I know she's still hoping I'll change my mind about being together.